Had a little bit of a false start there. Let me tune this bad boy up before we get started. I'm going to keep talking about soloing today. Hey, Sam, what's going on? I created a couple little short tracks. I haven't done bass for them yet, but doesn't really. Just piano and drums, something to play to. That I'm going to write a solo over. And so, approach it. Say I get asked to do a solo on a song or something like that. And, depending on the kind of song it is, generally, if it's kind of like a modal thing, when you say modal, it usually means it's in one mode and it just kind of sits there like an E minor mode or something. It could be something like E minor to A major, kind of, then to A major, or it could just be a. Sorry, the screen jiggles when I play piano, but you could just kind of jam in E minor or E Dorian or whatever and kind of play whatever over it, but doesn't change. Ultimately, it just depends on the context, but most of the time when I'm asked to solo, it's just to shred. So that I'm being asked to kind of shred over some kind of one chord thing or one kind of sonic thing, like, hey, Bob, what's going on? Sam, Sadie, good to see you all. See if we can get some people in here. We had a few. We had like 36 last week. That was pretty good at the peak. But the oh, I don't know what's going on. Somebody texted me. Oh yeah. I'm always amazed at how much of this microphone actually picks up the acoustic of the acoustic sound of the electric when I watch back these videos. It's like I need to figure out a way. Well, I think it's another software. I think it may even be two more softwares I have to install that allows me to get the sound from Logic into OBS or something. It's like it shouldn't be this hard, and it probably isn't. Hey, John, what's going on? Oh, hey, Bruce. So I was running a little late. Yeah, I was like, I didn't set my alarm this morning because, and I hope you appreciate it. I got up in the middle of the night because I had the idea for this morning what I was going to talk about, and I got up and at like 2:30 in the morning and recorded it, and then wrote it, recorded it, came up with a solo over it, and then then I went back to bed like. I don't know. It was probably like 4:30 when I went back to bed. So I got up at 8:15. So I've had about 3 hours sleep. Just couldn't sleep. I was thinking about what we were gonna. I was thinking about you guys, and I just couldn't sleep. So hey, Joseph. But what I want to talk about basically is that, we'll get to the meat of it here in a second because I'm gonna show you this progression I wrote. One I wrote, and there's another one if we get to it. That's a pop song, and if I were asked to play over a solo over this, and I've heard there are YouTubers and stuff that do it and do these crazy guitar solos and everything like that, and I should probably try to do stuff like that, and say if if NSYNC asked me to play a solo over their song, what would I do? And I could maybe do that. I don't know if I'd be able to. If I just like had the last couple seconds of the vocal leading into a solo section, like I could take the track and then the record. I'd pick a song, and then find a vocal removed version of it, chop it so that I chop that solo section into the middle of the song. So you hear the context of where it is in the song vocally, and then boom, go into the next section or whatever. And it would be just the same chords as is either the verse or the chorus or the bridge or something like that. Like I said, guitar solos aren't very common. I wonder if they're going to make a comeback. They might make a comeback, particularly in the age of AI, where you want to highlight more and more of humans in playing. But I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Rick Beato just did a video about a new AI music generator, and to be honest, every single song, I don't know if anybody saw my comment, but I wouldn't even call any of the songs average songs. They were all pretty awful. I don't see anybody replying to it, but yeah, it was pretty pathetic, and I felt like actually the thing that struck me as the worst in these AI songs were the lyrics, because especially on a country song, man, these people are craftsmen. Maybe artists. I reserve the term artist. Usually, I think other people should, because my sister is a painter, my brother-in-law is a painter, my niece is a painter. They all went to art school. They all teach art, so I feel like they're artists in the sense that they're creating something out of nothing or whatever. And that's what musicians are doing sometimes too. But I don't know. The term artist in music is usually used as in reference to a band or a solo artist like Justin Bieber or somebody. So where are you going with all that guitar in your hand? With that guitar in your hand. So I wrote this progression, and what I want to do is I want to talk about, we talked about last week a little bit about soloing and using scales. I've got this progression. Let me write it out. I'll put it on the screen here, okay? So let me create a text thing. And what I did was I kind of treated this like it was I'm just going to write out the names of the chords. G, basically C, G, E minor, E minor, C, G, D. And it was kind of a double D. I didn't plan that, sorry. All right. Now let's make this much, much smaller. Not me. Don't move me. Come on, there we go. And I'll shove it down here. So this is my chord progression for this little turnaround. Now I think I actually played G over B here, and I set it up with a G chord. So I'm in my head, I'm imagining if we're dropping into the middle of the song, we need a guitar solo. And so it's being set up with the one chord. We're in the key of G. All right. And so ultimately we're going to land on G, but initially we're not going to avoid G. There's a lot of G's in here, but it's gonna kind of sit on the 5 chord. So it's going to go. If we look at the G major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, sharp, G, ran out of available fingers. We start with the 4 chord, and that's why I feel like it sets it up for a solo break. Here, I'll just play. I don't have bass on here. Just 4, 5, 1, 6, 4, sits on that for an extra bar to the one. And then basically the idea is that the song continues at that point. Probably would most likely lead into a chorus. So you kind of got to set it up a little bit. We look at this progression, and it's in the key of G, right? So first place you might go is just to kind of noodle in G. So you get, you start. Part of the reason why you want to learn all these scales up and down the neck is to be able to just kind of play in G anywhere on the fretboard in case you need to go up here or down there, or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try not to really notice the chord changes. I'm just going to kind of play G in the key, G scales. I might not just play all seconds, minor and major seconds. I might. We'll see. So we can. Okay, so I was ignoring the chords there. I was just playing kind of G. Oops. There we go. Now, how's the balance? Let me know how the balance is. Was it guitar? Could you hear the progression and the guitar? Like I said, I wish I had. I know I could do a bass on here. Let me see. That's probably just going to make it boomier. I may need to do a little EQ to get rid of some bottom end on it on the master. So let me do that. Let me pull off. Oh, sounds good to you. Oh, awesome. Thanks, John. So we got G chord. So there's a lot of D chord there. That's a whole bar of D chord. So check out what's happening with the progression. It's basically C for a beat and a half to G. And by beat and a half, I mean, let me just quantize this real quick. Oh, and I just quantized the eighth note. Should be good. Okay. A beat and a half, which is means that the chord changes to G on the and of 2. So when it changes to and, I gotta go back to my guitar channel. Here we go. You're basically on the C chord for a beat and a half, and then you're on the G chord, the 1 chord, for 2.5 beats. You add that up, and it's 4 beats. That's 1 bar. Same thing happens to the D to G. Okay, so 2.5 or a beat and a half of the D chord and 2.5 of the G chord. So the and of 2 changes, right? Pretty common place to change chords. And then I do the exact same rhythm. All right, and so basically it's the same thing. It's a beat and a half of E minor to 2.5 beats of C, a beat and a half of G to 2.5 of D, but then I do a full bar of D. Whatever the chorus is, okay? I could write a song from that, just using the bridge to inspire the rest of the song, okay? Does that make sense? How many people do we have on here? Oh, wrong. Oh, I see. Analytics, viewer activity. Oh, there we go. I did a false start earlier. I don't know if that got more view or less view watching. If you got a notification, I apologize. And Bruce, you'll notice that I'm not using lesson numbers anymore. So let's not worry about keeping track of that, okay? That's kind of a passe thing from a bygone era of the, thank God, bygone COVID era. Um, but really, I don't want anybody to think if we're on lesson 497 that they've, oh, dang, I better go to lesson 1, you know. No, just join us and just hang out with us. And hopefully, even whether you're a pro, intermediate, or beginner, you'll learn something, all right? Okay, so I just did a solo that was just, again, just kind of noodling in on G scales. Awful, just awful, right? It didn't go anywhere, okay? This would be the equivalent of having a conversation with someone and just either spelling out the words that you're going to say, Likeisaidlikeifa. Yeah, it's unlistenable. Or if I just said random letters, J, K, just kidding. You know, V, W. If I just, sorry, a little phlegm. We had a lot of rain, and whenever we have a lot of rain, it seems to kick up a lot of new pollen or something. So I'm not sick. But we don't need to delete the lesson numbers, but we don't need to worry about it. Hey, AJ, and many vibes. Good to see you. No, I was playing a G major scale. Now I'm going to play G pentatonic, G major pentatonic, okay? And so let's see what happens if I just play. I'm going, okay, I'm in G. Let me just do G major pentatonic. All right, here we go. Not awful. I felt like I was a little bit more in sync with music. I kept it simpler. I just stayed in one pentatonic shape. I could have moved around to all 5 pentatonic shapes. And that has shades of Let It Be solo, George Harrison doing the box shapes, right? And we talked about that solo years ago. And so it's not bad. It's actually kind of reminiscent of that, the way I kind of approached it. I wasn't really thinking about the chords I was playing over. I was just going, I'm in the key of G. So pretty much everything in the key of G will work. Now, what about G blues? Would G blues work? Well, so if I take that major pentatonic shape and instead of having the pinky on G, I put the first finger on G. So that's the minor pentatonic. If I add the blues note, I don't think it's going to work. It might work in a moment or two of the song, but it's going to be kind of weird because this is such a diatonic, super duper, I would call it square, almost white bread kind of chord progression. So the blues thing's probably not going to work very much. I hope not, AJ. I mean, not that that's a bad thing, but here's a... As with the blues scale, I often, you'll often want to bend that third up towards the major third, the minor third. We talked about that before, but I mean, that might work in a moment of the solo, but for the whole entire, what is it, 9 bars? It's not, no, it's 5 bars. for the whole 5 bars, you probably couldn't get away with it. The tempo is pretty slow. It's 72 BPM. So it's not really, again, it sounds a little bit like I'm just saying random words. It doesn't really sound like too much of a thought. Okay, so now let's look at the chord progression and maybe go from, see what we get, what comes up here. Okay, so, and again, so ultimately, when you have a conversation with someone, I mean, unless you're just saying, hey, have a nice day, or what do you think of the weather, or whatever, for the most part, you kind of want to come away from the conversation feeling like you either learned something or taught something. Nah, I don't know if that's the, but you came away from the, I see a spider on the wall. A little one. I don't mind spiders for the most part. They keep the flies away. I don't get rid of all the spider webs. So the high ones I don't get rid of. The low ones, it's on furniture and stuff I get rid of, but outside. But all right. Anyway, oh, he's crawling away. You heard me talking about him. Didn't we have a spider come down from the ceiling one time? All right, dude, where are you? I got to keep an eye on him now, just because. Make sure he's not have like a family of 5,000 spiders somewhere. Now I'm gonna be all paranoid. Didn't I have a spider fall on me one time? Oh, Mixo? Yeah, let me try Mixo. Okay, so Mixo, what Mixo is going to do, so Mixolydian would be a G major scale, but with an F natural instead of an F sharp. All right, and so that's going to be weird over the D chord, but it's actually going to make the 5 chord sound more bluesy. We have 2 5 chords. We have a 5 chord at the end that we sit on for the longest period of time. That's where we're really going to be struggling maybe with the solo. And then we have the 5 chord right there, the 3rd chord. Okay, so let me try Mixolydian. So again, Mixolydian would be. So Mixolydian is a major scale with the 7th note flatted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, down to there. It's relative to the key of C major, which we have a C major chord in here. Let's see what that sounds like. Let's see, I don't know if I can. Yeah, I mean, I could see where you could maybe go to maybe a G Mixolydian for a second if you wanted to. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna write a solo. So I feel like almost all solos are written. I mean, back in the day, back in the day it happened too. They just would maybe play them live. They would work them out in advance. I mean, if it was a real record session, you knew if it was a band thing, you've been practicing the song, so you've had a chance to write something and come up with something. Like the Beatles, not every guitar solo, but a lot of the early solos, And Your Bird Can Sing, obviously that's all written out because they're doubling each other, they're harmonizing with each other. As I did with my son on his wedding day. That song, I can't remember it now, but so I'm going to look at the first thing I'm going to look at is the chord progression. Pretty much the only thing I'm going to look at here, the key of G, and it starts with a 4-1 progression. Okay, so to me, one thing you could start to look at is what are the common tones. Like I might go. Start on C, and then when it goes to G, I'm going to go, if I have to change, I will, okay? So, for example, from the C note, there's no C in the chord G, all right? In fact, I can write this out as well. We can look at, and this is where knowing some theory comes in handy. All right, let's do another text thing. Okay, and we got G, B, D, we've got C, E, G, we got D, F sharp, A, and we have E, G, E, G, B, O, royalty, Okay. So these are the chord tones. I'm going to try to get this a good size here so you can see it, but okay, I can throw this down here. So here are the chord tones. So if it starts on the C chord and I start on a C note, I can either, when it goes to G, I can go down to B, would be the neighboring tone, or up to D in the scale. Okay. Take out that tooth, John. Okay. So I got that. So then it goes to D, so I could just sit on that D, and I could sit on the D again for the G chord. So I'm only going to move if I have to. Let's just put it that way. All right. So check this out. The reason I'm doing this, though, is to kind of start with a foundation or a simple idea, and the what we were doing before, playing the G major scale, the G major pentatonic, the G minor blues, and then the G mixolydian, was we were just thinking of the key center. Okay, we were just concerning ourselves with the overall key of the song. Now we're looking at the individual chords, and so in that scenario, when you start to look there, now you're going to start to point out the differences between the chords. And if there are differences, you highlight it. If there are no differences, you kind of highlight that too. Or if there's less differences, okay? Here's a little thing I learned in music school. When you're doing soprano, alto, tenor, bass, SATB, okay, 4 parts. Soprano top, alto is the other female, right? Then you got the tenors, the high guys that can sing a little higher, and you have the basses down here, right? Your bass is going where it's going. It has to be, if it's a 1 chord, they're going to be singing the root, if you know, the G in this case. If it goes to the 4 chord, they're going to probably be singing a C. If it goes to the 6 chord, they're probably going to be singing an E. So can't really do anything with that. That's the chord progression. Basically the basses are creating the chord progression. The sopranos are singing the melody. Nothing you can do there. If the melody's da 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 da, you know, they got to do that. Where you can actually manipulate and where your arrangement shows up is in the alto and tenor voices, the middle voices. And one of the things they teach in college is that if you don't have to move a voice, don't. Like if you can keep the alto on a G note, then keep it on a G note. If you can keep the tenor on a D note, then keep them on a D note when everybody else is moving. It makes for more cohesive arrangements. Oh, John, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay, so check this out. I'm only going to move if I have to. All right. I got to go here. There we go. I could have done something different. See, now that's a super duper boring solo, is it not? But what it did was it highlighted the fact that there's some commonality between some of these chords that you can use to your advantage, and we can do things that are less common, and choose notes that may be outside. I like to do more interesting outside notes, but we're going to talk about that maybe we'll get to that. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. Just so. Dennis is in the house. Good to see you, Dennis. Yes, yes, Dennis. That would be like. There's so many things we can do, and that's kind of a Zen thing. Like for example, what if I said, okay, I'm going to use the notes in G major, but I'm only going to play on the high E string and the G string. Okay, so. Okay, so I kind of stuck, it wasn't great, but I kind of stuck to just those two things. But it's a good exercise mentally and for you to get even more and more familiar with your scales up and down the fretboard, because it's easy, not easy, but I can remember my threepers. We've talked about threepers before. We learned them all. I could just play threepers all day long, but how well do I know them? Is it just finger memory? Is it just muscle memory? Or do I actually know the scales? So by choosing only 2 strings, or choosing to skip strings, or play the A string and the B string or something like that, you really start to see the scales on the fretboard, I think, a lot better. So it's a great exercise. As far as keeping the solo simple, that is a good way to do it, is to maybe go, okay, I'm only going to play on the 2nd and 3rd string or something like that. If you limit it to like the 5th and the 2nd string, you're probably going to have kind of an odd solo. It may be cool, but it may be a little on the odd sound. So, okay. And like I said, I was up at 2:30 last night. I woke up because I was laying in bed. What am I going to talk about today? And I thought of this, and I got up and I started coming up with a chord progression. Actually, I wrote the chord progression in bed. I came in here and I played it in the piano, and I did the drums, and then I started soloing over it. It was 4:30 before I went back to bed. I got up at 8:15, so I'm on 3 hours sleep, and I got to pick up my wife tonight at the airport late at midnight. So my wife left me. Okay, so remember, I started the song. This is the end of a section, and then we're going to the solo section. So the song's in the key of G, but the solo section starts on the 4 chord. All right, so to me, the most obvious thing there is it's kind of got that amen, that gospel thing, right? Bass players might typically go boom, 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 okay? So let me start with that, okay? And what that does is it sets it up, and you can do it a lot of different ways, okay? I could play it down here, low. So that's not a bad start, but I up an octave. I think it sounds better, and I kind of started with a rake. I think John Mayer would do that a lot, but rakes have been around forever. Okay, so all I'm playing is C, B, A, G, a backwards G scale starting on the 4th. 4, 3, 2, 1. But I could do some different things in it. I might hit that high G. Let me see if I get that in 2. Okay, it's in 2. I'll give it a little bit of a little interesting thing there, but let's keep it simple for now. Okay, now it goes from D to G. So I can't go. I got 5 notes to get from D to G. What if I did the same thing? What if I did that same thing twice? Okay, so I went C, B, A. Now here's the music theory coming out of me. I'm like, oh, cool. Now I could go maybe to a D7 vibe, create kind of a Mixolydian thing over the D chord, but play a C natural. What would that sound like? Well, again, so what I'm doing is I set up kind of a thematic idea, a very, very simple thematic idea. And I'm just going to repeat it over the different chords. And it'll kind of work, but I don't know if it's good for something that I would stick with. Thank you, Sam. Okay, that's kind of cool, but it almost is a little boring because I've already done it. You're like, okay, and that's part of the thing about themes is themes are not a theme if you don't repeat them. If you only do them once, it's not a theme. So that might actually sound cool as, if I did something different over the C to G change. And again, I'm playing over the chord change. I'm not playing in the tonal over the key, just playing G notes. I am playing just G notes, notes in the key of G. But I'm thinking more over the individual chord changes, okay? How to get from C to G. So I might, you know, I could do something like that where I save that descending G scale for the D chord so that it sounds a little bit more interesting. Now I could also go from the D and I could do a triplet. Do something like that where I have 5 notes I have to squeeze into the space of 4 notes. That might sound like this. So let's see. That's what I want. That's not bad, so I can tell already. That's kind of cool, right? So you instead of just playing pure 8th notes, I'll talk about that. The bend, yeah, I could bend any one of those. It really, it's kind of dealer's choice. Like I could go, or I could go, or I could go, or I could go. I could bend any one of those. Okay, that might be one of those things that goes, oh, that's Tom Strahle, or that's Bruce Ringrose. You know, it's like it could be, you know, oh, that's Dennis playing guitar because he bent this note. But Tom always bends this note or whatever. So it's kind of up to you. You know, you might want to work out all 4 options, you know, decide. That's not bad, right? That's not bad either. No, there's no general rule, no. The only thing is you really have to know what note you're bending to and get there. You don't want to be sharp. It's better to be a little flat than sharp, always, in bends. That's why I'm not a big Gibson fan, because Gibson's radius is flatter, and it's easier to bend on a Gibson, and I tend to go sharp. So anytime I pick up my SG, you know, I don't think of it, but I probably should just do a bunch of bends when I first pick up a Gibson. My 335, same way. Strats, you have to fight a little more, and so I feel like it's for me, it's a better instrument for bending. But yeah, so there is no hard and fast rule. All right. Now, see, I do like that. So I like that little high G in there. So what I'm doing is I'm going C, B, A, and I'm getting that high G with my pinky, and I'm going down an octave. So then, so let's say I'm going to do that. Now what do I do? That's kind of not bad, right? But in my head, it's a little boring because I just ended on a G note. So went C, B, A, G. Maybe go like that. So far I'm just playing seconds. And by seconds, I mean the interval of a second. There are 2 types of seconds, a minor second and a major second. And that's what all diatonic scales are made up of, just major seconds and minor seconds, also known as whole steps and half steps, okay? So if I throw that note in there, that's where I get away from that, which is kind of part of the reason why I threw that note in there. So if I just did it real simple, we can start with this. Okay, so let's do this. I'm trying to remember what I did last night. I have it. I've got 2 of them here. Let's see. I have to remember what I did, but I'm not going to play it yet. So Oh, a slide. I could do a slide. Yeah, but that would be another lesson. So I want this to be fairly something that you could even play on acoustic. You know, I'm choosing these two strings, the second and third string, because you can put a little bit more special sauce on them. It's hard to put special sauce on the first string because if you vibrate it too much, you might go over the edge of the string, which sometimes you want to do. Okay, but we're gonna have a nice day today. What is it gonna be today? Sorry, I don't mean to rub it in. Oh, mi amigo Pablo, is he back in town? He's telling me that avocados are 4 for $1 in Quito, Ecuador. I get them for free. We've got a friend that has a super hyper producing avocado tree, and they love giving away avocados because it's better to have an avocado picked off the tree than on the ground rotting and smelling bad. So, and they're good avocados. I think we've had some good avocados from them. Yeah, if they're ripe, you know, and if they're not, you just sit them on the counter. I wouldn't want an avocado tree because of that. I did buy earlier last year. I bought a lime tree. We have a lemon tree. It's not very productive, and I don't think the lemons are very good, but it's not super productive. And I think I would use limes more than lemons. Totally different subject. Okay. So so this is a lime, and this is a lemon. Okay. No, but so far it's a very kind of pedestrian guitar solo. But we make it interesting with slides and bends and things like that. So like I could go. Right? So I did a bend up, bend down, slide up, resolve. All right. And then we have the E minor. Oh, I remember what I did last night. Okay. So. Minor, so if you look at the chords here, there's a B in that E minor, so I can stay on that. So I can go B down to G. So far I'm staying completely scalier, but it's still more interesting than going. My opinion, you're actually kind of having a conversation. It may be like the sky is blue as the conversation, the grass is green, the sun is yellow, or whatever. It may be the conversation of a 4-year-old, but it's a bit of a conversation. In fact, I'm giving space for people to listen. We're going to get rid of some of that space. So I could do. Now, if I do that, so I'm going B, A, G, and that gets me from the E minor to the G. I'm sorry, to the C, because there's a G in the C chord. That gets me from the G to the E. This is the first moment that we get away from seconds. We actually going from the G to the E, that's a third. But it's pentatonic. Okay, so this is our solo so far. And again, this is where we kind of start with. Now, if I were in the studio and I was asked to do a solo over this would be happening in my head, and it would be happening faster. Not the tempo, but I would be coming up with these ideas pretty quick. And I'm talking about looking at the chord progressions, and that's why I always like to have a chart in front of me when I'm soloing. Ultimately, I think it's better to have a song memorized and just know it. But for me, when I see a chord progression, I see the chord tones. And I don't just see the chord tones, because right now we're being pretty, like I said, pedestrian. But I see the seconds and the sevenths and the sweet tones, the notes that are like, ooh, that's an interesting tone. I see all those as well, and that just comes from knowing theory, and particularly chord theory. But so let's check it out. Simple solo. So that's pretty boring solo, but it's something to build on, right? Again, I played it about as straight as I could play it, and I didn't put any blues notes in. I didn't put any interesting kind of soul related stuff. Maybe like John Mayer might do, but a lot of players would do it. Let me. One thing I could do too is I could go see. For one thing, what's happening here with the chord progression is going, C. So there's a lot of gap there, and if we do this, we're not filling that gap. We could ignore the chord change and go after that too. Right? Almost like if the singer was going, and that might, what I'm treating this as is a solo break. So these are original chords that are used for the guitar solo only. I'm not treating it like it's just the chorus and they're muted the vocal and they want a guitar solo in it. That would be a different approach. First thing I would do there is I would learn the melody and see if I could do something with the melody to make it easy. So what we're having to do is we're having to be kind of the top line writer here. A top line person in a pop song is the person that writes generally the lyrics or the melody, or sometimes both. I work with a lot of top line people because I'm the guy that kind of creates the vibe, for underneath. So I kind of start a song. So so that was one of the ideas I had. So check this out. I mean, that's sweet. I love the sound of that. We're laying on the G chord and I'm playing the third and I'm going to the fourth sus thing, right? And to me, that just that makes it kind of sweet. The other thing I did was I led into that second phrase so that after the first, so it's not completely empty. On the end of beat 4, I'm going, or you can even do something like that if you wanted to. But I kind of like the, because initially we thought, oh, maybe we could do the descending C thing twice. I mean, yeah, but it's a little boring because you're just doing the same thing twice. And I might start to fill in that gap a little sooner with that little, maybe a soulful thing like that. Watch this. Ah, shoot. So that's kind of nice, right? I forgot to do my little soul thing. I was trying to think if I wanted. Oh, let me add that note in there. Okay. I still didn't get the pickup up. I still didn't get that pickup in there. I messed up the first time. So that's kind of cool. I like that. It's very sweet. It's not flashy, but it's a conversation. It's a nice conversation, right? You like that? Does that make sense? Hey, David, what's going on? How do you practice the theory? That's an interesting question. Practicing theory. Well, I mean, I think whenever you're playing the guitar, you can start to map out the chord tones, for example. I think chord theory is really important to know. If you're in a one key, it's a little bit easier. Um, but but if like I said, when I see that C chord, I kind of think C, E, G. But I also think, oh, a nice note is that is that second tone, which would be a D. That kind of thing. You start to, when you're playing a song, even if you're just strumming out a very simple chord progression, you can be sitting there going C, E, G, G, B, D, E minor, E, G, B, C, D, F sharp A. Or if you're playing C7, G, C, E, G, B flat, you can just start to start to go through the tones of the chords in your head as when you're playing them, or when you're thinking about them, or when you're writing them down, or whatever. Or you can even start to, when you're listening to records, or listening to the radio, or people listening to streaming. I heard an interesting argument for purchasing and owning CDs. A video on YouTube that I saw. It was interesting. It made some good points. One of the things is, you may be listening to streaming and you may hear a song and you may go, well, that's not the song I remember. It's the song, but like Def Leppard re-recorded a whole album. But like, how many? 30 years later, 20 years later, whatever. They're all different players. They tried to play it exactly the same. So it sounds like somebody playing a cover band almost. Or Taylor Swift redoing all of her records because she was mad at Scooter Braun. She wanted to own the masters. I mean, she can afford to do that, and she's making a lot more money off of those versions. But is there a difference between the new version of Red and the old version of Red? Yeah. And even if you're not savvy enough to notice the difference, you intrinsically in here notice the differences. Her voice is 10 years older. The players are different. The feel of the drummer's different. Oh, they quantized it. That was something too that apparently, like, they re-released Queen and they pitch corrected Freddie Mercury. Really? That makes zero sense. That's not what we're used to. But the thinking is that's what kids are used to. And if they hear something, a singer out of tune or a drummer that's laying back too much, it kind of freaks them out. I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not. But to go back and to change classic songs like that, So this guy makes an argument for owning the original CD so that you have a digital copy, and you can throw them onto a hard drive or whatever you want to do. Gosh, I don't even have a CD-ROM. I don't have a CD player in the house anymore. I'd have to go and I'd have to order one. I have a cassette player, but I don't have a CD player anymore. It's crazy. So anyway, okay. So back to the solo. Okay, so what did I do there to give that soul sound? Okay, I kind of went Mixolydian. We talked about Mixolydian before. And I took that the E note here, which is in the key of G, and I kind of bent it up to an F natural. Maybe didn't even get all the way there. Didn't get quite all the way there. On an acoustic guitar, if you play it might be really hard to do. You could go like that. So, yeah, you can also, one thing you could do too, David, is Wait, was it David that asked me that? Is you could start to this is phenomenal actually, is to analyze your chord progressions in songs and break them down to numeric value. In other words, like I think Dennis is implying, like E minor in this song is, in other words, instead of writing C, G, D, G, E minor, C, G, D, I could write 4-1, 5-1, 6-4-1, 5. That way you can transpose it to any key. If I think, oh, 4-1, I could do the key of A. It might be the key change. And so that way you can transpose a song to any key that you want if you know that all the numbers in the key. So that's also a good thing to know. I feel like that comes under chord theory. I've taught on that. Hey, Zane, what's going on? It's always sip time. I know I definitely need to have get an endorsement, right? Yeah, I'm trying to spin this thing around, but it's glued on. I went through a run about a whole week where the cups were leaking. I was having to put my coffee in a coffee mug. It's Tom Day. Richard Abdul, what's going on? How are we doing? How many people do we have? Is it picking up? Oh, it is. Look at that. We're up in the 30s. That's awesome. Okay. So, yeah, so to learn all the keys and all the chords in the keys. Now, there's only basically 6 chords in, super basic chords in a key. 1, 2, the 1, the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The 7 chord is a diminished chord. You don't usually use it. You might use a 5 chord with a 7 in the bass, like D, or F sharp for G, things like that. I don't worry, there won't be a quiz on that. But it's something we've talked about, and I'm happy to talk about it again. This is a sipping opportunity when I say there won't be a quiz on it. So our drinking game, that's a celebratory sip. Yeah, I wouldn't call them chord scales, but I would call them just learning the chords in a key. So chord harmony, chord theory, chord harmony. So in the case of G, it's G, A minor, E minor, C major, D, E minor, and that's true for every major key. It's going to be a major chord, minor, minor, major, major, minor. That's going to be every key. If I go to A flat, it's the same thing. So once you kind of learn all those into different keys, and you may not have to learn all 12 keys, you might only have to learn the ones you're using. Like if you never play an A flat, you may not never need to do A flat. But you might want to learn, all the caged keys, C, E, C, A, G, E, D, all those 5 keys, learn all the chords in those keys. And I'm just talking about the major minor chords, not the 7th chords or anything like that. Okay, we're not talking about jazz here. There are no 7ths in this, but we are kind of implying a 7th if we do this. And that's the thing. It's kind of like I'm changing the chord from a G to a G7. So it's almost like, which is a little bit funkier, a little bit bluesier, right? So if I do that lick, I think that's kind of close to what I end up coming up with. Let me see what I ended up coming with. But before I do that, let me talk about the E minor. I'm on the G. I'm on the G, and I'm going to E minor. Okay, so G and E minor are very similar chords. They both have B's and they both have G's in them. So, but the E minor doesn't have a D, so on the G chord, I'm hitting the D, and I'm pulling off to the B. Okay, so I'm choosing a note that the first chord has and the second chord doesn't, and I'm going to it. I could also go. I could do the same where I'm going from a note, the G chord, a D over the G chord. There is no D in the E minor chord. I'm and I could go to an E because there's no E in the G chord. So now it's vive la différence, right? I'll simplify here, but okay, yeah. I mean, but I'm gonna just do a. I'm gonna do something like that. I just kind of like the sound of that, and it's a big pull-off. Not this one, but this one. Okay, it's kind of like a grace note. Kind of up to you how long you sit on those notes, but. So what I did that. I just like the sound of that. I think that's what I did last night at 3 in the morning. Like I said, I woke up at 2:30 or so and was like, well, I just was thinking about what I was going to talk about this morning. And I just woke up thinking about it, and I wrote this chord progression, and I was like, oh shoot, I know if I go back to sleep, I'm going to forget it. So I got up and I was in here until like 4 in the morning. I got up at 8:15 or something. So what was it, 4:30 or something when I went to bed? I don't know. I know I didn't get very much sleep. But I do it for you. All right, so here, let me drag in the solo I did last night. Let's see if it's any good. Oh, it looks long. Did I go long on it? Okay, let's see what this sounds like. So I can solo this so we can hear it. Hey, Rich, what's going on? So that one lick, okay, that is kind of almost like a pedal steel lick. And so it's what you would call a double stop. I didn't do it there. I think I did it, that I treated more like a single note lick. I think I did it more here on this version. Okay, so this is a different solo. So check this one out. Hold on. I'm going to show you what I did on the D over the D chord, but because like I said, that's the moment where you have to sit on that chord the longest. So what the heck do we do over that? All right, but I hope I don't break a string. But basically, what I'm doing there is I'm creating a double stop. What that means is I'm playing 2 notes at once, and I'm bending to the. Okay, so basically, what I'm doing is I'm bending that A up, hopefully, to B. The problem with the tremolo is that when I bend this up, the first string's going to go down a little bit because the tension is going to pull on the neck. If I were doing this on probably part of the reason why I tend to go sharp on Gibsons, but. Okay, so what you want to see there is the A form G chord. The top 2 notes of an A form G chord. So A form is this, right? And then this would be B flat, B, C, D, E, F, F sharp. There's G. So that's, I'm bending in, I'm holding this note down and I'm bending. Okay, and it's kind of creates a little pedal steel sound. And when I bring it down, so I'm just playing, I'm going from the 12th fret and 10th fret to the 10th fret and 10th fret. When I play that, okay, that is basically the top 2 notes of an E form D chord. So again, here's E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Right. Right? So that's kind of what I'm getting to. And I can make it as syrupy, as slippery, as saucy as I want to. So that's my thinking. Again, what I'm doing is I'm highlighting the differences between the chords or the commonalities. I'm doing both of those things in one lick with two notes. Okay, because both those chords, the G and the D, have a D in them. All right. Again, a little bit of chord theory can get you in a lot of trouble. No, major pentatonic. I'm actually, Scott. I'm using major pentatonic in the next phrase. Over the long D chord, I'm using pure D major pentatonic, and that's where your issue may be. But before I get to that, I'm talking about the G to D change. Okay, so I'm highlighting the difference between those two chords. I'm playing the B over the G to the D, and then I'm playing the D. And everything's pretty inside on this solo. I'm not going outside, okay? I didn't do that lick twice, which would have created kind of a D dominant seventh. The only thing that might be a little outside, if I do that kind of bluesy lick over the G chord. But here, so far, here's what we have. So, so I did do a pickup. Okay. Yeah. So, one of the things. Let's see, Scott Lennox. So. It depends on how you use the minor pentatonic. I mean, I can play E minor pentatonic and it's the same as G major pentatonic, right? You understand that, right? So if I do, that's E minor pentatonic, but it works in the key of G. That was all G major pentatonic, but I might be thinking E minor shape, you know. The only thing you might get in a little trouble is like over that D chord, I landed on a G note. You know, there's no F sharp in there, so I can't really play the best note of the D chord. And again, knowing a little bit of theory here, boop, I can point better with this hand. There we go. It's so hard to do. It's right there. But there's an F sharp. That's kind of the outlier, right? That's the note that's like, wait, what? And in fact, I'm trying to think. Yeah, we have an F sharp right here. Okay. So again, just to reiterate, we're kind of doing like the gospel thing, almost like if the bass was boom, 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 right? To kind of get the whole thing started. But that's a little boring, so I added a high note in there and on the way down. And then I had some gap, right? So we have, and it, again, depends on the song, but you're playing over the busiest part, and when there's nothing happening, you're doing nothing. So you kind of almost want to fill that in. You don't want to leave. I mean, space is good, don't get me wrong. Pauses, moments, even completely laying out is all equal parts of the solo. The notes you don't play is as much as important as the notes you do play. So, but I do feel like it does need something there because it's a pretty slow tempo. It's a pretty long moment. All right. David Patrick says, I heard a saying an old timer said, pay attention to what you're doing while you are doing it. I'm pointing to myself. I guess yeah. So, I mean, I try to think about when I'm talking to someone, right? You've got to be very careful. You know, you don't want to say something that hurts someone's feelings, or you don't want to say a secret that you might know, or you don't want to, I don't know. There's a lot of things, you know, it's like, I feel like that's something when you're just having a conversation that's important to kind of keep in mind. And like I said, I've talked about this as being a conversation. We're having a conversation with my guitar solo. You know, if I just did G scale, you know, it's awful. It's just awful. It's like if I had a conversation with you and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. It's meaningless. You've said absolutely nothing. So what we're trying to do is have a conversation. Now, this conversation might be a little bit, like I said, the sky is blue, the grass is green, the sun is yellow, whatever. Your eyes are beautiful, or whatever. It may be pretty simplistic. And David, David Patrick, you do have beautiful eyes, just so you know. Okay. So I'm filling in that gap, and I'm filling in the gap there. And again, I'm using rigs to give it some drama and the pull-offs. Again, I could just go, right? Simplistic would be without any tricks. That's kind of boring. That's where having a kind of a toolkit of ways to get to and from notes. And dang it, I've got a video I want to do. I've actually literally recorded it twice, and I can't. I almost need to sit down with somebody and do it and just get it done. But I think it's, I forget what it is, something like 60 ways to play the same note. You know, some of them are ways to get to a note. It's cool. It's on, like there's classical guitar ones, acoustic ones, electric ones, all in the same video. And I've filmed it a couple times, but I don't know how to organize it. That's the problem. And it's a lot of graphics. I may have already, I should probably go ahead and do the graphics in advance and then kind of figure it out. But I could even use well, that would take forever. Oh my gosh, imagine using examples of famous guitar players soloing and going, well, here's so-and-so doing this, you know, this way to play this, you know, note. I think I made it, I think it's an E note. And so, like, I start out with just like, you can play E like that, you can play here, 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 or here. And if you have a 24 fret neck, you can play it here. And so that's 6 ways right there, and they're all different. That sounds completely different than that. And then there was the pinch harmonic, you know, and then there's a harmonic. I mean, it was, like I said, and then there's ways to get to the notes, you know, slide, pull off, bend. All of those, it was like I had like something like 60-something ways to get to a note. And I would love to do that. And I think it ties into this lesson really well. If I'd done that video, I could send you to it. So later you watch it. But I didn't do that. Okay. So, but that's boring. So I'm going to do that, maybe rake into that first note. Add that octave right before going to the G. Maybe do a hammer on like that, little not a mordant, but So, so I did a little blues thing. Don't normally do that kind of bend on the D string, but I didn't want to go down there. You know, I could do that. You know, I could go down and get that note maybe on a more friendly string set, but I'm fine. Okay, I kind of like that. I didn't do any fancy, although I think, but again, note length, where you don't play. I didn't go, right? I went long, short, short, long, right? And I'm not even thinking about that, but that's a fingerprint right there. That's the classic kind of thing you go, oh, that's Tom Strahle, or whatever. I don't really have a fingerprint, but but there's certain guitar players will like play certain, you know, long, short, short, long, or then maybe they'll go short, long, long, short, or whatever, and you go, oh man, and you don't even realize, oh, that sounds like Mark Knopfler, and you go, oh, it is Mark Knopfler. Well, how did I know that? You know, and he might have been playing a total acoustic guitar, and you might have gone, wait a minute, how did I know? It's like they say it didn't matter what guitar Jeff Beck picked up. He sounded like Jeff Beck. It just didn't matter. And that I believe, because Jeff Beck, there's no one more individual sounding than Jeff Beck. So, yeah, and I think, yeah, and I could think minor pentatonic for this though, Sam. I mean, I could totally be thinking E minor pentatonic if I didn't want to try to conjure up what's G major pentatonic, because we think of pentatonics, but really E minor pentatonic is the same as G major pentatonic. Same exact note. Wow, that's Marshall Tucker. Something like, you know, very Marshall Tuckery. Okay, so we're about to get to the D chord, the long D chord. Oh, I forgot my octave thing. Oh, I forgot it again. I'm not recording, so it's... Okay. Now, I don't know if you're hearing some of those nuances, but again, even that climb into that second phrase, where I'm pretty quiet on that, because I really want this to be almost like a grace note to this F sharp there. That should be a really strong note. I didn't do it that time, but. On this thing, I slid off of that B note, you know, maybe hang on to it for a minute to set up that last bend. Oh, Allman Brothers too. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, you're right. Not Marshall Tucker. There's music that people don't really listen to very much anymore, that Southern rock stuff. I mean, some people listen to it all the time. I have a friend that, seen a Marshall Tucker cover? No, he's in an Allman Brothers cover band, I think. Maybe they do other Southern rock, I'm not sure. I have to hit him up. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I actually wanted to, during COVID, I wanted to interview him. I still should do that. I should still do that. I haven't interviewed many players. I've only done one, Joe. Okay, so I've gotten all the way to that. Again, to me, the problem in this song or this solo break, it's 5 bars. What about finger picking and plucking? Yeah. Oh, yeah, finger. Yeah. I mean, I might, if I was doing a different tone, maybe also my nails are kind of jacked up right now. So it's not, I'm all about picks this week. But yeah, you could, I might, see, I don't have a ring. I broke this one. That's the one I never break, and I broke it, the ring finger. Might grab that high G note that I play on that first phrase. I might grab it with my ring finger, like a country player would, kind of hybrid picking. Rake into it, hammer on, pull off. So that's not just this anymore, right? It's a lot different. It's rake into this note, hammer on, pull off to this note. Set up this note with an octave, right? So that's a much more interesting way to play. And I could do it a billion different ways. And even though I didn't do any slides or anything in there, I made it unique by having long, short, short, long, right? Again, I'm just trying to show you. And this would happen pretty darn fast in a session because somebody's paying $200 an hour for the studio or whatever. They're paying me whatever they're paying me, and it behooves me to go as quickly as I can. I know I get paid less if I don't drag my heels, but they're more likely to call me again if they got value for their money. And I just like that lick. It kind of fills in the thing. It kind of takes it somewhere. Now here's where we're talking about the major pentatonic and how it's used. So the D chord is if I were listening to this progression, and I'm really bad at this, but first thing you want to do is this. When they say, "Oh, I want you to solo," you listen to it. You don't start working anything out. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Oh, I got to sit on this chord for that. Oh, I'm gonna have to come up with some of this. So, listen to it one time, or at least one time. Kind of just listen to it. Just hear it. Don't just listen to it, but hear it. Okay? Oh, thank you, Sam Stamus. I appreciate that. Oh, probably at least one. Is anybody out there? Yeah. Mystery Song. I forgot about that. Yeah. I'm sure I did a lot of videos on finger. Well, we've talked a lot about finger picking. We did Giuliani arpeggios too, right? So what did I do over the D? Yeah, the D over the D, you could definitely do mix-up. I could have done something like that too. I went very George Harrison on it. I mean, that would be just playing basically D mixolydian over that D chord. And there is no seventh in there. It doesn't ever go to the C natural. So that's kind of why I avoided it. If it was like, sorry, I don't have my piano up. If I had, if there was a seventh in there, I might be more tempted to kind of highlight that. But instead, I decided to go very major pentatonic with it, kind of like what George Harrison would do. All right, so what did I see? Well, that's what I did there. So I just came out. And you'll notice too that, again, the solo has a lot of space to it, which gives you time to kind of fall off notes and everything, and I'm not filling up stuff all the way. It gives a lot more emotion. Right? It's important not to sound anxious when you're soloing. It's important to kind of lay back. In fact, it's funny because the guy I was just talking about that plays in the Marshall Tucker cover band, he took some lessons from me, and I used to play with him at Lake Avenue Church in Pasadena, and he would get a solo every now and then or something, and he would get nervous or excited, and he would rush, and he would kind of get ahead of the beat. And it's like I said, it's better if you're going to bend. It's better to be a little flat than a little sharp, and I think it's also better to be a little bit laid back than ahead. All right, so both of those criteria, the kind of bringing a little less energy, let's say, being a low energy guitar player, if that's a thing. But you almost have to take a deep breath and psychologically go there and not be too excited, and it's hard, in front of people. I'm really trying to lay back there. I'm really trying to not get excited and trying to be as nonchalant as possible. Okay, I always talk about that. I said the players that can play, the little kids that can play insanely fast. I think it starts in the face. Relaxing starts in the face. They kind of get this like face that looks like they're bored. All right, and it relaxes the rest of your body, I think, when you just kind of go, yeah, whatever. You're just like, this is so boring. And all of a sudden, it's just like you can play faster. It's something I don't even think they know they're doing it. I think it's a natural step that has to occur before you can play at a certain speed. There are guys that play fast and they're kind of like, wah, but the really fast shredders, if you look at their face, they almost look like they're just like, man. I'd rather be walking in a park. It's like they just don't look like they're interested. It's just the weirdest thing. But it's the same kind of thing. You kind of got to get to that place. Now, let me play it. I'll try to rush it. I don't like to encourage myself to do that, but I don't. You like when your mom said, "Don't make that face; it'll stay that way," right? I'm hoping that doesn't affect me, but. It just felt out of time. It just felt awkward. It overexcited. It's like, again, you almost want, and to be honest, if this was a solo you played on the record and then you toured for 200 dates and you played that solo every night, that's kind of where you want to be. I've sat next to, I've worked with Dean Parks. I've worked with Michael Thompson, Grant Geisman, John Goo, sat next to a lot of really, really good sessions. Never Lukather or Rittenauer or Carlton. I've subbed for Lukather on a show once, but one of the things that they were really good at was making something that they were sight reading sound like they'd been playing it for 6 months. It was freaking unbelievable. And basically what it was them looking at notes that were written. That's what I would have played. But they go, and I'm like, oh wait, you can take liberties with stuff? It was that eye-opening to me. And that's how you kind of, people hire me because, I can read music, but they hire me for my creativity and my interpretations. Sometimes they want me to play exactly these notes, but other times they're like, no, kind of make it your own. And that's that's when you do that kind of thing. So, yeah, exactly, Scott. Definitely something to say about letting the notes breathe a little bit. Oh, we peaked out at 35. That's good. We get more people here. I'm happy to talk about soloing more because I think it's a popular subject. Okay, so let's talk about the. Okay, that is basically, I'm just seeing all the. I don't know if I'm seeing chord, like here I'm seeing a D chord, here, this D chord, all right? The E form D chord, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, all right? And when I see this, I see root, fifth, root, third, fifth, root. So I'm playing the top two notes. So I'm playing the fifth and the root, but I'm hammering on the sixth. And that's alluding to the pentatonic. If I were... Okay, so if you play that little box there, that's D major pentatonic, or that's 4 of the 5 pentatonic notes. The other note is right here, F sharp. So there's all the notes in a D pentatonic, D major pentatonic, right there. But I'm going, so I'm just kind of doing almost, I'm doing that again, but I'm doing it with a hammer on. And then I'm hammering into the F sharp, okay? But I go down. And again, I made it short. That's kind of, after I hit the, I choke it. That's very George Harrison. And this note is not in the D pentatonic, D major pentatonic. That's the root note, that's the G, it's the landing. And I'm assuming at this point we're going to the chorus. Now, a little bit of what's happening here is contrary to what I might normally do. What I might normally do would be something where I would maybe do... maybe end high. But for some reason I felt like if I'm going to sit on this chord for a long time, I want it to go down, okay? I talk about there's 3 things you can do to kind of build energy and an arc into a solo. One is pitch, go from low to high. One is speed. One is volume. There's other tools at your disposal, but those are the 3 main ones. And start out a solo slow and end it fast. You build some energy that way. Start out low. Eventually you can end there or whatever. Yeah, so those are all different methods to kind of build energy, but we're trying to just say something here with this. We're not necessarily trying to create this energetic track. So So again, there again, I'm kind of playing within the D major pentatonic, but I'm also kind of what is that? Train kept a rolling or something like that. But basically, I'm kind of playing off of that major triad of the D thing. I actually could do this. Same thing. So do this lick down here is the same as doing this one. But this one's a good one to have in your tool belt. And then all I do is, now I'm thinking this pentatonic. I'm gonna go ultimately going down to this D instead of this one here. But very George Harrison. I'm hitting 2 notes. Yeah, I'm starting with a double stop. So double stop. And And from there, I'm just doing single notes. And you can do slides. That's kind of cool. I slid down to that D and back up to the A and then hammered on the G. The temptation there would be to go too fast, though. Let's see. Let me try that. Kind of nice. So let me record that. So now I'm going to record. Now you hear the click. 3, 4. All right, now let's hear it soloed. I didn't do the bend, the double stop bend that I did before. I just didn't, I forgot. So let's solo that and see what it sounds like. No click. Okay, now here's one thing. Boom, 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 boom. Didn't talk about tone. That solo was largely inspired by the tone. I've got a completely different tone right here. And if I had had this tone up, notice I used the neck pickup. If I had this one, I might have used my bridge pickup, and I might have... I don't know if I'd go all shreddy on it, but if that was the tone that I was using for this, or that's the tone they wanted for it, then my approach to the solo might be completely different. You know, but I could do it. I'm not really thinking. I got to remember to think of the chords. So let me look at the chords while I do this. Right there. Doesn't really. That solo doesn't really fit that tone, right? And the song, just the chord progression alone doesn't really fit that tone, right? And the tempo and the vibe, that's not a tone I would grab. Now, what if I grabbed a Pat Metheny type tone? Now that's where I would start to maybe think about chord tones. Chord tones that are upper extension chord tones. So instead of root, third, fifth, I might start thinking 7th, 9th, and 11th. So maybe something like... over the C, I might play B minor pentatonic, and over the G too. All of this sort of. So Yeah, I mean, Pat Metheny loves pentatonic shapes, and he loves to use a weird shape over a chord. You know, if he's playing over E minor, he might use. I started to do that, and it was like, oh wait, I can't use the C sharp. It doesn't really work. But this is a very simple chord progression. Pat's freaking genius with this kind of stuff. But anyway, but the solo that we ultimately did was probably made the most sense. The tone that I chose. And the great thing about I'm recording it. Let's see if I turn on the feedback or see what happens. Isn't that crazy? That's a plugin that just creates acoustic feedback. It's like, what? So you check it out. It's like, oh wait, I gotta enable the track. I'm not loud in here. It just is. Scott Johnson, what's going on? I knew a Scott Johnson back in Indiana. You're not from Indiana, are you? Actually, I think we're still Facebook friends. Let's see. He was worked for my band in Indiana. Name of the plugin. That's a good thing. Let's see. It's called Blue Cat's Acoustic Acoufine. They're a French company. Let me do a screen grab of it. Let's see. I don't know how much it is, to be honest. I'm just gonna go to the desktop and drag this over here. So this is what it looks like. You can totally. I'll give you a link to the Blue Cat Audio. I think is their website. If you reach out to them, you can tell them you know me, and I don't know if they give you a deal or anything, but it doesn't hurt. In fact, I've got to talk to him because he sent me a couple plugins, and he sent me the codes, but I can't get them to work that way. But here's the, yeah, there's the, okay. So I think I'm going to stop here. I was going to do another song. I don't know if you know what this is. Anybody know what that's the chord progression to? Oh, you're in Boulder. Okay. I've been to Boulder. I actually got offered a job in Boulder back in 2004 at a church there. So I may do that one next week. Don't know what it is. Well, we'll talk about it next week. Okay. Time to take a break and finish up here. Any questions about? Well, we can talk about anything really, but about this lesson or soloing. Yeah, Boulder's a beautiful city. Great restaurants. Holy crud! Really good restaurants. The church was there, but I wasn't going to be able to afford to live there. But we were looking. I had a friend that brought me there quite a while ago. He had seen me teach a clinic, I think in '99 in Colorado Springs, and we became friends. We stayed in touch, and then he wanted me to come in and do kind of a clinic for all his musicians at his church. He had like three bands, but three bands worth of musicians, and they were trying to kind of, it was volunteers, and they were trying to get them to, to be in rotation and stuff like that, so everybody got a chance. But there were, a third of them were pros, and anytime those guys were on, it was much better than the other weekends, guys and gals. But it was interesting. It was actually really good. I kind of went in there and I listened to all three bands, made lots of notes, and then I said some hard stuff. But I'm not brutal. And it was more to the pastor, and I talked to him. I said, yeah, the best thing you could do is if you could pay the pros to be there every Sunday morning. And that would be the best result, because you would have a good band every weekend. And you wouldn't have train wrecks, and you wouldn't have out of tune playing. Or the big problem was overplaying. Like there was a lady that was playing piano, like a sampled piano, and there was a lady playing a sampled organ, and they were sitting on opposite sides of the stage. And I went back, and they were both playing too busy. And you've got 10 fingers. There were 20 fingers playing music over there. And then they had an acoustic guitar player, an electric guitar player, and a percussionist, a bass player, and a drummer, and singers. And the singers weren't there, but it was just kind of chaos. And I went back to the soundboard, and I looked down, and I was talking to the sound man. I said, "Let me see the mix for the organist." And the lady playing the organ sound, she didn't have any piano in her mix. And then I looked at the mix for the piano player, and she didn't have any organ in her mix, in her monitor. So I just kind of did this thing. I just went broop like that and turned the other one up in each other's monitors, and their heads went up, and they were like, "Oh, you're playing. Oh." And I went, I stopped the band. I said, "Did you notice something?" They go, "I can hear her." And they're like, "I'm like, I know." You should be able to hear her. And basically, organ player, you can get away with playing one note. Piano player, you don't need to play octaves on your left hand because you got a bass player. Let him do the octaves, And you don't need to play as busy on the right hand because you got guitar players there. So it was kind of like, but then when I met with the pastor later that afternoon, I was like, "Yeah, you probably need to do this." And I gave him a bunch of my recommendations. And like a month later, he calls me and offers me the job being the worship leader at the church. And my friend was hoping that would happen. He was the one that brought me in. And I would mean leaving LA. I'd been here since '83, and my career hadn't taken off at that point. So I was kind of like, I don't want to say my career's taken off, but it's certainly better than it was. But let's see. Oh, KT's barbecue. That sounds good. Oh, for lunch already? You've had lunch today? Nice. I guess it is. It's noon there, right? You're on Mountain Time. So I was kind of hesitant to leave LA. He kind of kept upping it. I think he offered me $50,000 a year, and then he upped it to 60, and he upped it to 70, and I was just like, we at 70,000 back in 2004, I think 2005, 2004, we could have afforded to buy a house, but I was leading worship at my church, and they were paying me to do that, and it was a big church, and it was in LA, and I was starting to get some work here and there. But it wasn't, it wasn't until I literally stepped down from leading worship at my church, still play there, but I just don't lead. I'm not on the front of the stage anymore, which I kind of like. I like being more behind the scenes. And I tried not to leave him in a lurch. I gave him like a 6-week period of, transition, and it was a stressful job for me. It was really hard because I'm not really much of a singer, so I was kind of, flying by the seat of my hanging on like that cat that, hang on. I was that every week, so it was brutal. It's a lot easier job now. Most weekends we have 3 worship leaders. we built a big building, a new building, so we only have 3 services instead of 5. We only do 3 songs in a service, and we don't play at the end of the service. Back when I was doing it, we would do 5 songs in a service. We had 5 services and 2 rehearsals. So every weekend, and I was the only singer. I mean, I was the only worship leader. So every weekend, I had to sing lead on 35 songs. And by the end of the 3rd service on Sunday, I didn't have a voice. I'd wake up Monday morning, I couldn't even talk. It was just tough. Now it's 3 services. Basically, if you're a worship leader, you lead 3 songs a weekend, maybe 2, if they only have two worship leaders on a weekend. But we only do 3 services, and we only do 3 songs in a service now. So because so many people, you have to get people in and out. You know, one service bumps into the next, and you're in trouble. So yeah, it was hard. Yes, you had Scott Lennox. Yeah, you had a choir teacher that taught crescendo. Yep. Oh yeah. Well, and that was the thing. When I played at GDC a couple of weeks ago with the orchestra, I hadn't played with an orchestra in a long time, and it's quite disorienting because you really only hear the people right around, the immediate people around you. You have to trust the process and assume that, you know, everybody in front of you is hearing, the audience is hearing the full orchestra, but you're not hearing it that way. Yeah, I taught a clinic at, it was crazy. I taught a clinic at, what's the big church in Orange County? Rick Warren's church, Saddleback. I taught a clinic. Saddleback brought me down there to teach a clinic just for the guitar players in the Saddleback system. I think there were 200 guitar players. I don't even know how many campuses they had, but they had all these remote campuses all over that would broadcast the sermon. I don't know if it was live or if it was like, if they did, like, we would do that too. But what we would do is, to the remote campuses, we would bring a video, a DVD of the Saturday night service. So somebody would drive it out to the remote and they would have it, or they'd download it and they'd play it or whatever. So now it's probably all done via downloads from servers. But yeah, so I think that's what Rick, I don't know if you did, if it was streaming live. I doubt it, because that would mean that if it was streaming live, your worship teams would all have to be in sync. I think you just do. But there was it was crazy. They had one campus that was Hawaiian worship, another one that was 50s style worship, another one that was 60s style rock worship, and another that was 70s rock style worship. So they have a ton of guitar players in rotation all over their campuses. And I think they opened it to other people too. So, but I had about 200 people in that clinic. And my regulars remember this, because this is a story. News broke while I was teaching that clinic that Michael Jackson had died. And I had literally just said his name 3 seconds before somebody just looked up and said, Michael Jackson just died. So that's why I don't say anybody's name anymore. I'm just kidding. Yeah, let's hit that like button. Why not? I feel guilty that I made our church priest obsessed with guitar playing. Not at all. I think the first contemporary worship band I ever played in was at a Catholic church in Pasadena. My next door neighbor was playing there, and he asked me to come and play, and I did, and I got to play rock music, and so it was really fun. But that's kind of what, worship music kind of goes between different genres over the years. Contemporary worship, I should say. And that's definitely, I've been either playing in churches or leading worship at churches. Typically what would happen is I'd start playing guitar at a church, and then the worship leader would leave and I would take over. And at one point I was leading worship at 3 churches and subbing at a 4th every weekend before I ended up at Shepherd. So Saturday morning I was leading worship at an Adventist church, and I'd started out as a guitar player on Saturday morning. I mean, how often do you get a Saturday morning gig? So I started playing at this Adventist church for my friend the friend that I told you about that plays in the Marshall Tucker band or the Allman Brothers band or whatever. I'm going to call him after we're done. I'm going to see if he wants to do an interview. Um, and then he asked me. His business was taking off, and he couldn't do all this stuff on the weekend. So he gave me two guitar playing gigs that both turned into worship leading gigs. I said, yeah, I'm the black hole where gigs go to die. He asked me like 5 years later, oh, whatever happened to those gigs? I said, oh, I'm still doing them. Once I had a gig, I didn't give it up. It was like I was trying to build my career. You know, whether it was churches or teaching lessons or doing sessions, I was just slowly trying to build it. You know, and it's changing again. I'm at a crossroads right now where I've got to make some decisions. You know, where the music that I was writing a lot for TV, they're pretty much not doing that anymore. It's all AI going to be doing it. The underscores for reality shows and stuff like that. We'll see if it works, but yeah, so I'm not getting called to do that now. So that means that income's going to go away eventually. So I have to have the next thing. I don't know what the next thing's going to be. I mean, I would just like to be busier as a session guitar player and do more writing. But the writing thing is difficult if the TV show stuff is going to go away. But and I'm talking about reality shows, not scripted. I've never written for a scripted show. Not really. I mean, a couple things, but yeah, not really. So anyway, yeah, so I ended up with, like, I was leading worship at an Adventist church on Saturday morning, a Baptist church Sunday morning, and a Presbyterian church Sunday night. And then my Lake Avenue church it was kind of my home church. I was playing there Saturdays, but then leading every now and then on Saturday, helping out the worship leader there. Those all basically went away once I started working at Shepherd and kind of realized that was going to be a permanent thing. I could stop doing all the other stuff. So it worked out. But AI, not good. Yeah, it's technology's decimated the music business. I kind of came in late on the music business. So when people say it's not like it used to be, I kind of say thank God, because how it used to be for me was nothing. So say no to Friday churches. Yeah. Man. I didn't really do anything Friday nights. I never had a Friday night thing. I never played in cover bands. Not when I moved here. When I was in Indiana, that's all I did. But when I moved here, I decided I was never going to play in a cover band, because cover bands weren't going to get signed and get a record deal, and you're limited to the money you make that night, and that's it. I always realized the money was in royalties and residuals and getting signed and touring and all that stuff. So anyway, is there a union? No union for musicians that work in entertainment industry doing work you do? Yeah, there's a musicians union. They don't really get you any work. The only thing they do is they prevent you from doing work. So generally, it's not the best union. They say, oh, you can't, do these non-union things or whatever. But every union musician does mostly non-union work. So it's not like they're going to show up at my house and say, hey, what are you working on? Because almost everything I do, I work on from home. But I mean, the union's not bad for some things. I mean, if I'm working on a film and I'm working from home on a film and it's a union film, like I'm working on one now that's not, but the composer pays me pretty much what union pays. There's just no back end. When you work on a union film or TV show or anything like that, then there's secondary market money, which can be a lot of money. It can be really nice income. But less and less studios are hiring union musicians because they don't want to pay that secondary market money. They really haven't. Now the Congress just passed a law basically stipulating that if it's create AI, it's not copyrightable. Okay, so if a TV studio is thinking that they're going to create all this music that's AI, like for example, a company I work for, writing a lot of music for reality shows, they produce shows. I write music for them. They keep the publishing, which is half the money. I keep the writers, which is half the money. So if the song makes $1, I get 50 cents. They get 50 cents. but they're not airing the show, so they're making money from the like Discovery and the different networks, A&E and all that. And they still are using my music on new shows and everything. The big show that I was writing for a lot basically got canceled. It was Street Outlaws and all of the spin-offs. And it'll live forever up on Amazon, and also it's on HBO Max, and it's on Discovery Plus, but it's not airing on Discovery anymore. And the Discovery royalties were going down anyway because less and less people have cable, and they're trying to migrate everything over to Discovery Plus, and they pay less royalties on that, which is part of the reason. But the production company, if they have they pay someone $200,000 a year to create a bunch of AI music, they can't make any money on the back end of it. So I don't know if there's a whole lot of incentive for them, but my contact there is retired. They gave him a golden parachute, and I'm not sure. They moved the office to Nashville from LA, so I don't really have any connections there anymore. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's definitely changing. Oh, right. I forgot about the union stuff in Blues Brothers. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, and I like doing union gigs, especially if I'm doing what's called multi-track rate, which is if I'm recording at home and I'm laying a bunch of guitars down, I get multi-track rate, which is pretty good. It's like $300 an hour or something like that. So it's good. It's good money, more than I would normally charge a composer if I was working on a game or something like that. Yeah, it's very rare to get that work anymore because studios, they don't want to pay that kind of money. They actually pay, believe it or not, they pay the London Philharmonic more than that than they pay the LA musicians. But when they do a score in London, like all the James Bond scores, all the Harry Potter scores, all of the Lord of the Rings scores, and all the Star Wars scores are all done with one exception, was done at Abbey Road in London. And it's not union, but they get paid more per hour than the LA musicians, but there's no back end, so the studio saves that money. Oh, goodness. Oh, nice. Your 81 telly, nice. Atticus, good to see you, Atticus Finch. Thank you for joining us. I'm here I try to be here every Monday. I plan on being here next Monday. So also thanks to John Y for the $10 tip. That always helps. Like I said, I wish the YouTube money's gone down a lot too. I mean, I'm making a lot less money on YouTube than I was. It's basically so little that it's not even worth my doing anymore. But I've got a couple videos planned. I'm working on. I'd love to do the 50 ways to play the same note, but I just can't. I've filmed it twice and I can't quite conceptualize. I really have to organize my thoughts. What I should do is not even talk. Just have it close up on my hands, do the 50 ways, notate them, name them or whatever. Don't explain what I'm doing so much. Maybe explain at the beginning. And maybe that's what I did. It's been so long since I did those original videos, I don't even remember what I did. But yeah. All right, I should probably go. It's been a couple hours, and next week I'll write another solo here for you. I probably won't even work on anything in advance. I'll just kind of go, let's see what I come up with. And maybe try a couple different sounds too, or talk about that, maybe trying to find the right sound for the song, the right guitar for the song. Could be acoustic. I don't know. Might be an acoustic thing. So, yeah, thank you, Scott. Have a blessed day, too. Enjoy your barbecue, dang it. Now I want barbecue for lunch. I'm like, is there a good barbecue place around? I'm trying to think. I don't want to go to Gus's. Gus's is good. The better one is in South Pasadena. The one in Porter Ranch is okay. It's not as good as the South Pass one, but Gus's barbecue is pretty good. But it's also pretty expensive. I don't want. I mean, if I was going to lunch with a friend, then I would, but I'm not, so I won't. Anyway, all right. God bless you all. I'll talk to you soon. Hopefully, see you next Monday, Lord willing. And yep, take care. How many did we had a good turnout? I feel like we peaked. I said 35 was the highest I saw. Yeah, we were sitting in the close to 30 almost the whole time. Dropping off now because I'm saying goodbye, but that's expected. So, take care, everyone. Yep, thank you for the love. Here, I'll love myself. Woo! Party, woo! 100%. Yeah. Uh-oh. What? Okay. Anyway, I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.